go.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's on.
Are you sure? Okay. Well, we'll try it anyways. KNOWNS, Keys and Kismet. This is No Time for Rational Thinking. Volume 11, episodes 1 and 2. And it is subtitled Keel, Salvage, and Slightly Used Tacos. We have open lines today at 501 area code 762-0437. This is Real Liberty Media, noon central. We have Minor Dave as a guest, Meister Brow. Brent's going to be calling in. My co-captain Flash over in Denmark, and our wonderful, lovely producer, Circle Line, who we got some stuff going here this morning. So I'll try to read this opening that I've written, or in part paraphrased in plagiarism. Okay. Somebody needed to mute that or wipe it. Okay, so I will try again. Ready? Emojis have become a favorite rhetorical weapon of choice, claimed by some as a sign of how the culture has degraded. Say what you will about not being a proper language. I like them. Hashtag that. By words or word faces in type or strange places, has language lost its luster? What do we know or think we know? What's being said and how can we say it better? We might be saying the same words, but do we speak the same language? It's a truism that we live in an age of sound bites and quick quips. Even better, anything that fits into 140 characters or less. Anyone can do it in our now simplified society, contemporary simplified society, and redundantly so. Does it make communication easier than ever? For most, it's simply the way we live. Decontextualized and fragmented, disjointed from the experience, the full experience of communication. Reductive, perhaps, but certainly a bit seductive. At times, yeah, even without the nuances. Ideas provided Ideas provided for us from birth in a nature of trust and confidence have compartmentalized into fiduciaries and fraud. We have the responsibility to no longer be predefined, redefined, and classified by names or notions. Being pre-owned by misdirection or mere miscomprehension, we're confined as separated by a lost lingo. In response to a request for evidence that Iraq was flying terrorists of WMDs, Donald Rumsfeld ostensibly stated, "We know there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We know there are unknown unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know, but there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know." The Rumsfeld's answer is not just, it wasn't just an evasion, but it was a misdirection. It was a non-answer. Many people thought that reply to be brilliant. Sutter, listening right now, I'll be over to chat in a minute, and I will suspect you to have some contention with this that I think it otherwise. Are we men? They tell us we lost our tails, evolving up from little snails. Jocko Homo from Devo. The word man, as used in place of mankind, human being, and so on, is now largely confined to literary or proverbial use. When the word person is substituted, we become a corporate fiction or a strawman. That is an artificial person as a legal entity, a construct. Thank you, Dave. But what does this mean? Many will say it's a surrender of our unalienable power to protect, granted by God, or as being self-evident in the laws of nature. A legal system wherein one is governed by statutes, acts, ordinances, codes as legislative rules given force through law within society. What's the problem with that, you might ask? Well, that is by and large a far-reaching discussion. And we will go back and have discussion. We'll go back in history and to look at some of the foundations of our current institutions and the jurisdictions that hold sway over each of our lives and freedoms. Now, let me interrupt myself here in saying that I've spent a lot of time this week, a lot of hours, and I barely touched the tip of the iceberg. Dave is on with us, and we're going to have some discussion, and he's going to come back next week for legal versus lawful, continuing the letter theme. So today, of course, is K, and it is knowns, so some things that we do know. Now, being that some of those things we do know, we can trace a great deal of where we are, in part back to the Magna Carta. So in 1215, King John consented to the demands and signed the Magna Carta. It has been widely assumed that this charter established human rights and civil liberties. However, in my opinion, it is little more than a guarantee for the English nobles against a tyrannical king. That they not be plundered so heavily without consent. And that they be not be held without remedy for unlawful restraint of liberty. That's habeas corpus. Thank you, Hal. Pope Innocent III nullified the agreement 10 weeks later, plunging England into internal war. It was reissued several times, and some 2 centuries later, found its way as inspiration into 9 of the 26 provisions, as well as the American traditional of natural rights, incorporated in the entirety of the U.S. Bill of Rights. Natural law is accessible to human reason rather than requiring divine revelation, and does not depend on, nor is it derived from man-made institutions and customs. It's grounded in moral standards ascertained by human reasoning. Natural law declares that which is unalienable, the right to protect and preserve life, liberty, and property from that which would come against it. Its assertions are a declaration and guidance when standing for that which we possess and when responding to its dispossession. It is not a protection in legal rights, but that which might be claimed normative and de facto and should receive protection collectively. None should feel entitled to retrospectively interpret legal as law for purposes of political or judicial precedent by belief or opinion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I got one thing to say.
Yes, sir.
If you let me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not inalienable. It's unalienable.
Okay.
It's unalienable, meaning nobody can put a lien on it.
Okay. Thank you. By the way, corrections is welcome. Like I said, this is so convoluted, this whole idea of where we are today. And Maestro Brow, in chat earlier, which was tying in so well, and also with what Cirque talking about the president of Uruguay, Rafael. Hey, Cappy, welcome over to Real Liberty Media. Grammy, Maestro Brow, and I'll catch up the list there a little bit. We're looking at how the third world countries are being plundered by the IMF, and it's the same thing going on here. But how did we get there? I mean, get here from there, right? So this is where we're going to be talking about. We're going to have some example from Dave with what he's involved with or what is against him. And he has shared with me in email. Won't you tell me what that is as I'm reading it here?
Well, what that is I discovered a number. Somehow it ended up in my phone. I don't know how I got it, but I got a number from the Office of Inspector General, and it's a hotline. And I called in, and I left my name and left what I wanted to interest in was that I was ordered by a U.S. District Court to do a plan of operations with the Forest Service and the BLM, but yet they don't have the forms for it with proper OMB numbers. So I used a template of a form that doesn't really fit, but it got it in front of the Forest Service and the BLM. And so one of the things I've been asking for, I just wasn't asking the right people, for a trustee to the mineral estate, the valuable mineral estate. Because see, in 1866 they gave away the hard rock, 1870 they gave away the placer, in 1872 they combined it all and added more minerals to it, and every time we discover new minerals that are valuable and not ordinary, they get to be added into what you file on. So all your basic elements that you can file on as minerals for the use thereof. Like gold is used in computer on the phone I'm talking to you on. So, anyways, that email is to show that they confirm that the trust requires a trustee. And so they're going to put the FBI on it as an investigation for the what it may be appeared to be legal, but wasn't lawful, what they did to me. It was a legal construct, not a lawful construct. And so what I'm doing now is I'm exercising the power of an individual, a corporation, and a person. I'm combining all of them, and I'm forcing them to appoint a trustee. And so now they're going to put the FBI on it, because in 1946, when the BLM was created, they didn't appoint one. And whether it was by oversight on purpose, or by accident, or by negligence, it's still an unlawful crime.
Okay. So, let me interject.
And they inserted their rules that were done legal but unlawful. This is what you were talking about, the language, how they...
very important. And that we're going to get really...
important.
Now next week when you come back, legal versus lawful, we're going to... I've started, but I've got a lot more to do, of course. But we're going to be talking about some terms and definitions, and I'll start now.
Right.
First of all, shall is a future tense word, just for reference, okay? But legal pertains to the understanding, the exposition, the administration, the science, and the practice of law as the legal profession, legal advice, legal blanks, newspaper, implied or inputted in law, opposed to actual legal. That is, well, it looks more like opposed to the actual, which is legal looks more to the letter, and lawful to the spirit of the law. Legal is more appropriate for conformity to positive rules of law, lawful for accord with ethical principle. Legal imports rather that the forms of law are observed, that the proceedings is correct in method, that the rules prescribed have been obeyed, that lawful, that the right is actual in substance, the moral quality is observed. Legal is the antithesis of equitable and the equivalent of constructive, and that comes from Abbott's Law, 1893. It's a dictionary of law.
Very good dictionary, by the way.
Yeah. So what we're seeing here, legal is being used as law, right? And legal is only supposed to be a proceeding, in the rules. So with all what I read earlier, the acts and ordinances and so forth, codes, whatnot, are being used as law, and that is unlawful. Common law, a very deep subject. They tried to file a case of common law out there, of course, in Oregon. So common law versus legalese. Common law is a belief held by peoples in a community, in an area, in a period of time on the planet Earth. A man can be held accountable for his beliefs, by the way. So in some terms that I've started here, claimant versus plaintiff, expressed and complied. Go ahead and speak to that, Dave, on claimant versus plaintiff.
Well, a claimant would be, like in the United States, is they've taken your property, your property, like your cars, your clothes, your real estate, things of that nature. They can take your money because that's property. So that's property. And when we're talking about equitable versus rights are superior to equity. And so what they've been doing is they put people into equity courts and deny them access to the court of right. And so what you have here is you have fiduciary duties to a trust. And this is where, like, you have some real estate, and it could be anybody. It could be government. It could just be you leaving something to your child, a piece of real estate. And you set up a land manager to manage it because he's young and you just died. And so that manager is a trustee. They manage the estate for the grantee, your son, if it's your son. Well, in this case, the United States government. Now you do this by covenants or by acts of law, and that's an expressed trust. So Congress, to write covenants of a trust, has to write an act. Then they have to write several acts, and then they have to create a trust, and they have to put what the trust covers and how you can collect on it if you're a grantee. So if you come in and you file a claim, you become a claimant. Now, once you do that, until it's perfected, it's called a possessory title. You're required to be, occupation is required to be on the land, or your representative of your person has to be on the land to be lawful possessory title. Well, the Forest Service tries to go out and kick everybody off. That's considered interfering and attacking the grant, especially if you don't have jurisdiction over it, which the Forest Service doesn't. Because it was in existence before then. It was in existence before the Department of Interior took over management. This used to be ran by what they call the state lands. It was a federal office, but it was the state kept the records on it. They still do. They just do it through the county courthouse now. So, but they no longer manage it to issue patent. It used to be that you would go out and you would show them that what a reasonable man did this up, and they give you a rosial title. And the local government here was a mining district, so the exclusive jurisdiction over the rules for miners to agree to was in their mining district to follow. By the way, this could be a one-man district, by the way. It could be within the bounds of your claim. Or it could be an associate one. A group of miners could get together and agree on certain practices and standards because it's self-regulating.
Now,
because they have to have enforcement.
Let me, I'm going to have to kind of adapt as we go along here, and I think it's very important now that we bring Brent in right here. And the whys, why are they doing this? And I would like to present as evidence with some facts from Brent. And Brent, talk some about how this IMF, how they've been scheming and reaming the Southern Hemisphere has now come home to roost.
Well, are you understanding what loan sharking 101 is?
Ooh, that's kind of it, ain't it?
Well, I mean, if you want to say we got a mafiosa going on, and they got some people running some bets, and we got a little bit of vice going on, and somebody gets so far in their betting that they have to start borrowing more money, or they're going to send Rocky Balboa out to start breaking thumbs. That's what loan sharking 101 is, and if you don't pay your debt, you get your thumbs broken, don't you?
Jackals.
Oh yeah, that can happen.
So I mean,
and that's in fact what they did in Oregon.
Well, see that's what it's coming down to. We're sovereign individuals. We got a sovereign state. We got a sovereign country. If you believe in that, I believe I'm sovereign. I'm not going to go too much further into the state or the federal government. But we are a nation state, just like Europe. Their countries are, and we were talking a little bit earlier about the EU and how the EU is being set up to break the nation states. So, and they're doing it through it's predatory lending practices. These are international lending agencies. It could be the IMF, which you just talked about, but We used to have Wolfowitz was the CEO of the World Bank, and Hillary Clinton had the itch to be the CEO of the World Bank after Wolfowitz. And then we have the United States Agency for International Development, and these are international lending agencies, and they're all
wandering places.
I have to come in now with the 420 report, and it is EU European. The best there is Kansas in.
Yeah, it's good. It's 420.
It's 420, huh? It's 420 somewhere, right?
All this. Okay. Now back to these EU Europeans going on here, and they're. Hey, listen, you can piss down my nape of my neck and tell me it's raining, but I'm not sure I'm going to believe it over time.
But I think that what's going on is you got people like Lagarde and the IMF that are just circling over our heads like vultures. I think that what I heard that we're $20 trillion in debt now. There's no way of escaping that. They're trying to make it legal debt, and that's tying to our Social Security numbers and future generations. And there's hell to pay because we're already in default as a nation. Every year they talk about the budget crisis and all that. It's because we're bankrupt and we're in default. We have no way of paying this. So what do we have as collateral for future loans? Basically, so to give us more money, or else it all collapses. They have to give something in return. I mean, if you buy a house, you have to have something. You have to have a down payment. You have to have. If you want a loan, you have to have collateral. And I think that's what they're doing. They're going after our natural resources, our prime land. It's our sovereign land, and that's what they're doing. It's just they're doing it under the color of law, and it's kleptocracy is what it is. They just don't have the guts to tell us that they're stealing our natural resources, our it's our future generations' land. It's our land, but they think it's theirs, and they got these operatives out there.
It's our inheritance, not theirs.
Say that again.
They're stealing our inheritance. They're stealing our inheritance, our heritage.
Both.
Well, I believe the debt is as real as the money is.
That's right.
So
it's not my debt.
It's
the money isn't real.
It's not real. It's a made-up story that you just keep telling other people.
So hey, good news here. We finally have good audio. I believe we've got it all sorted out. Hey, and we're not even halfway through the 26th episode series, or actually volumes, because there's plenty of episodes in between, and topics that I'd like to go back to and cover more. So even after we go through the 26 letters, we still have more content to add.
And we got numbers
now
too.
Flash is able to join back in. He's been silent for the last couple of months. We had the option of he or myself to have the better of the sound quality, and he opted to allow me my voice. So I'm glad to have you back on board there, Flash. Good to have you back at the helm here.
Well, I'm going to disagree with everybody, right? Because I'm sitting here in Denmark, though, right? And I was listening to Brent talk to Circle earlier, and we have a Russian steel plant in the backyard, and all this stuff that we read on the internet. We're 60 miles about from Germany, and I don't know what the fuck these people are talking about. I saw a video. Well, I saw Gollum get outwitted by Bilbo Baggins inside the mountain. So, what? I saw 9/11. I saw the Twin Towers fall, too, and I heard everything but the truth about how and why ever since. So, I don't take much stake in what people tell me.
Well, I mean, I did see the video of a complete highway over there in Germany with a semi-truck driver trying to drive the people off the road as they were grabbing his mirrors and bending it in the bumper-to-bumper traffic. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen so many people walking the freeway. So, I mean, I understand if you haven't seen it, you're not going to believe it. But I saw this video, and I don't know how they could stage this or miles long of immigrants coming into Europe. I mean, they're coming. I mean, you can ignore
right.
it, but they're coming, man.
Ignoring it or not, I'm living here, And the horror stories that I hear from people that don't live here do not make me afraid. I don't believe it. All the people I know here in Fredericksburg that speak to me about it, we all think that you guys don't get it. Not you that's on the radio here. I mean, the bulk of the population, even here in Denmark, don't really understand what's going on. The way that you guys do that are on the radio tonight, discussing, details that most of your average Joes don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I live over here in the United States, and they've been huge immigrants been coming in. I mean, I'm talking about going back to 2005, 2006, 2007 when they got the building booms and all the credit going on, and there was a lot. I mean, I said they come in threes because you look around, all these people are looking for work. They're working under the table, and they were a lot of Mexicans and people from Latin America. Now, I'm not a racist, but I saw how many people came into the country and how our federal government just allowed them all in the country. Just like all the immigrants, it's a melting pot. I get that. I'm not afraid of that. But they're doing it to dilute our country and our sovereignty because they come over here, they get all the free governmental services, and it costs the people a lot of money to the point that they're voting blocks for the Democratic Party. It's very similar with what, in my opinion, what's going on over in the EU. They're diluting that, getting people to go along with all the free stuff, and I don't know that it's healthy for sovereign countries or people when their cultures get destroyed.
Well, let me say that. First of all, we have our very own e-racist / somebody.
Hello.
But as far as the immigrant thing, that which is against us is using that. First of all, they're creating the situation. Then also by this, I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm not humanitarian in this. That we should be helping somebody, but we should be stopping the hurt. Okay. Now, what happens is when these Europeans come, migrants come over to European, EU, America, Canada, wherever else, that there are going to be some people that they bring along on purpose, mind you, to do some dirty deeds. And that's going to happen. Now, I'd also like to say, as far as people not getting it, quote, quote, that's involved, the war that is against us, it is so multifaceted. And I listened to UCY.tv this morning to Lonnie Clark and to Jules. And Jules, oh man, the on the micro scale that it's being used in transgenics, involving humans in our food source. Lonnie Clark on to talking about the water. Almost all the nation's water supplies, these municipalities are polluted. There's a lot of poisons, and we see a lot of other poisons from there and poisons from elsewhere, and it's all meant, to dumb us down. I myself, I feel a lot dumber than I used to. Now, I don't know if that's having reached the half-century mark or years of abuse or what it is, but I did some.
Extra water.
Accurate. Well, I drink well water, and I'm in the Ozark Mountains, and my water is pure here where I'm at. As pure as it can be.
Well, that's good because it's pure where I'm at too.
Yeah. So let me move along in here and bring another point of discussion, and I want Dave to come in on this and correct any of my mistakes, and then also give us some more information. So, the history of the American Bar Association, theft by deception. So that's what is this war that is against it? It's they're committing thievery, right? They're stealing, and that's what sin is. It's theft, right? It's taking something that you should not and do not have a right to take. Thank you, Circle. That she helped me come up to that good definition of sin as theft. The government, and taking what? Property, life, even a person's emotional status. Okay, so the governmental and judicial systems of the United States of America are both federal and state levels are owned by the Crown. And that I'll sidebar note there. The treaty, it's the Treaty of Paris, right, with the end of the American Revolution. Sidebar note that. A private, is owned by the Crown, a private foreign power in London between Fleet Street and Victoria Embankment at the Thames River. Now, this Dave will correct me here, I think, or at least add to. All bar associations are franchises of the Crown as signatories and franchises of the International Bar Association. London, Washington, D.C., and the Vatican City are these sovereign and independent territories that defraud, coerce, and manipulate by crime against us under the guise and color of law. Yeah. And this is a side note that I've written. I think if this is, I think this is from you, Dave. Bar equals British attorney rule. It's a quasi public-private on attorney status title of Esquire, and get that at the passage of a bar exam. So go ahead, Dave. Let me hand you the mic.
Yeah. So what you got is you got British attorney rules, and since Britain, until the United States came along, was the world power of the world, because the Queen owned the King or Queen owns half the world. They changed their processes over the years. They've granted certain of their territories to have their own parliament. And so, like, Canada has its own parliament, Australia has its own parliament, they let a little bit of self-rule. But it all comes back to the attorneys in there and having the title Esquire. It's a way to get to the Crown to have people to do their dirty work, and put a legal seal of approval on it. It's the legal enforcement. It's not the physical enforcement. They have people with guns to do that. These are the people that would come in, and that would be like in Britain. You have to hire an attorney, but he can't argue anything in court. You have to have a barrister do that. So you have to hire two attorneys right from the gate in Britain if you're charged with anything. And you have to have one guy that writes the legal work up, and you have to have one guy that gives the legal work to the court and presents it. Here we don't do that. We just have a guy write it, and then, well, he could have somebody write it. He could have a paralegal. Anybody can write it. They call them paralegals here instead of attorneys. But basically, an attorney in Great Britain is the guy that writes it is basically a paralegal, and then they got some guy with a higher title that comes in and argues it in court. So if you look at...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it doesn't matter which court system you're in. If you're in an American court system, the difference between America and Britain on the legal system is their judges sit in place of the throne. They are acting as unless the Queen comes in and wants to hear cases, or the King, if there's a King, the judge sits in place of the King, and he has the power of the King. And here, here a judge sits as a bar association member, which is a conflict of interest for any judge to belong to a bar and sit in a public office. Attorneys were not supposed to be in the U.S. House of Representatives because they belong as officers of the court. You can't belong to two offices at the same time. So how can you be a lawyer and be in the judicial branch and then be in the legislative branch at the same time? That means when you're a congressman, if you're going to leave practicing law, you should surrender your law license because you're an officer of the court, an officer of the judicial system, and you can't sit in the government on the legislative side. That'd be highly illegal. That would be immoral and unlawful.
Brent, we have you back, right?
Yes, sir. I was always here.
Okay, good. I got confused looking at chat there. Now, like I said, I believe it's a Treaty of Paris that ended the American Revolution, and of course there was a little skirmish a little later on. Yeah, and what did you say about the Civil War?
Well, we call it the American Revolution, but officially it's considered a Civil War.
Yeah, okay.
See, we call it the Revolution, but officially in that treaty it ended the Civil War.
Great. Okay, and that also put into power the Crown and their operatives, the bar, right?
Well, that didn't come until later. That didn't come until after our second revolution. Because remember, Lincoln didn't belong to the bar, and Lincoln didn't go to college, and he didn't. Back then, all you had to be able to do is read a law book and articulate it in front of a jury. You could be an attorney. You'd be a lawyer, not an attorney.
Yeah, a lawyer and attorney is not the same thing, right?
Every man's an attorney.
They're licensed attorneys. They're not licensed lawyers because lawyers don't need licenses.
Explain that further. And then, Brent, I'd like you to interject in that.
Well, because they set up the administrative court. Since they set up the administrative court, anybody can practice law and rules and regulations, and they don't have to be an attorney. All they have to do is show that they can do it. And so that's what it used to be with lawyers. But the administrative system is unlawful, and they like to use non-attorneys for that because then they can blame the idiot that's in the wrong court. See, what they do is all the courts now are administratively, and the agencies, because Congress has illegally authorized the agencies to write their own rules. Well, that's unlawful. Maybe legal, but it's unlawful because Congress is shirking their duties to oversight of the agencies, and that means they have to write the rules. It's not right for the agencies to write their own rules, then be the judges, and then be the guy that gives out the ticket. That's what they call a rigged system, and it may be legal because it was passed by a statute, but it doesn't make it lawful under what you would call a civil society of sovereigns. And that means my sovereignty can't interfere with your sovereignty, and your sovereignty can't interfere with mine. We're supposed to live in a civil society, meaning where we can enter our property peacefully. And the Crown's been trying to steal back some of the land ever since we've acquired it. Well, we know they can't do it with guns, so they do it with lawyers.
Yeah, and that's a consent by our free will, by allowing us to continue.
Allowing us to continue.
Yeah.
And you got to look at the bloodlines. By the way, I'm part of those bloodlines. You should look at those bloodlines and how evil some of them are.
Quick. He's infiltrated us.
Click.
I can't hang up. You're locked out. Somebody's calling me, and I can't do nothing about it except ignore it. If I try, I can't disconnect them because while I was talking to you, my phone locked. All I can do is answer it. I can't shut it off.
That's
so
okay.
Go to my voicemail.
I was making a joke. I want to get Brent to add in here.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines before he said it. I concur with what this gentleman just said.
This is Miner Dave from the Galis Mining District in Oregon.
Hey, Miner Dave.
Galis Mining District. Yeah.
Say it again. I said it wrong. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Say it again, Dave. I said it wrong.
It's Galis Mining District. There's a meeting tonight. I'll be going to.
It's spelled Galice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Galis.
It's one of the oldest ones around.
Right on. Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Back to you, Brent.
Yeah, I was going to say along the same lines, and I concur with what the gentleman just said. When you're looking at the French Revolution, which is every much the same thing that's going on in our country right now, while they're out living out at Versailles and living the high life, they devalued their own currency, took the gold right out of the coins. It took 3 months worth of work to buy a loaf of bread, and the people cut everybody's heads off on Bastille Day. But at the same time, they were loaning money to the United States to fight Britain, and they almost went bankrupt at that same time. You start taking a look at the United States ever since that revolution. The British Crown, absolutely, they've been coming back. We're now over 200 years since that time, and they want it back, and they are doing it through the court system. They realize, just take their time, they'll get back. And you're right, this is exactly what the Bar Association's doing. They're circumventing the rule of law. They're absolutely corrupt. These lawyers are doing it. They're not afraid to take the money. These are greedy people. But as far as what you're talking about between the lawyer and the attorney, are you guys familiar with who John Quaid was?
No.
No, I'm not.
He died at 71, and I'll post something there that some pretty decent clips. You know who he is. He was in the movie Roots. He played a lot of villain characters. He was in Every Which Way But Loose. He was like one of the outlaw bikers. He's the guy that wore the helmet that had the horns off of it. You remember that guy?
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah.
That guy died at 71 a few years back, but he was a very intelligent person, and he was into law reform. He had an incredible library of books. He studied law, big advocate for standing up for law reform. And he gets into common law, and I'll point out something, a link that kind of, he said it much better than I, but what he was talking about in terms of common law was every man is an attorney now. He said that just going back because that's kind of, what it was. Everybody used to have the Bible on their, right in their living room table. And in their house, everybody was in charge of their own, things. Now it's like, you're an incompetent if you go out and represent yourself in the court of law, and they treat you like a dummy, and they start to navigate.
That's exactly the way they treated me.
Yeah. Absolutely. They don't want you coming in and doing that. They don't want people realizing that you can do this. I mean, you shouldn't have to go pay $250 an hour to defend against.
Or $500 or $1,000. Some of them are charging $1,000 an hour.
Yeah, I'm not too sure that we ought to even, let alone have to pay, but even have to defend ourselves in some of these legal actions that are brought. And better, I say, as I channel Hal, that we take it against them and take and bring suit against them in the proper channels. It is
one of the things that's really powerful, even in Britain's law, is a breach of trust. Because in the old days, it didn't matter if you did it to a commoner or not. A breach of trust was a very serious offense in Britain. It still is, but they don't do this practice anymore. A person that committed a breach of trust was so low that they hacked him into pieces. They drawed and quartered him if they were found guilty of it. And it was imposed on him by the king. And the king said the lowliest commoner that has what little property they have has the same right as the king to have his wishes honored and to have a trust fulfilled. Even Britain says that.
Hey, okay, Flash, would you like to come in here, and then I'll finish out this part, and then we're going to move to another subject. Not another subject, but another.
Yeah, well, what you guys brought to mind is I lived in London for about a total of 2 years. I lived in Scotland for about 2 years, and then I'm in Denmark. This has been 2 years, and the further away from America I get, the easier it's become to actually see the proof of the destruction the country's left behind it. in its wake. But it's still England's baby. I mean, this isn't just America. All these corporations got names for countries and shit, but it's like a chess game, and we're the pawns and shit. We're not making decisions. We're being pushed in directions. We're being herded like sheep to do what we're told. And it's easier to just agree and do it than it is to fight it. And about 95% of the populations that are considered free, in my opinion, 5% of them are free, and the other 95 just go with whatever the state says.
I've never been to those places you're talking about, but I agree with you from all I can study.
Well, right, and I think it's in the food source, the water source, all of these illusions about medicine and made up diseases and crooked fucking thief doctors they'll sell you a piece of paper so they can buy a boat. I mean, these people have they have no fucking morals at all. Period. They make you sick, and then they charge you for maintenance until they can kill you. It's a fucked up system, and I don't want to play in it.
Yeah, legal as laws. Legal as laws. Oh, thank you, Sutter, for the link in the Brent in reallibertymedia.com chat. Legal as laws, rules and regulations, and a constitution does not give rights. Merely states that which is unalienable or unalienable. So
unalienable.
Unalienable. Yeah. So
unalienable.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some contrast on those words. And we'll bring that to bear next week because we're going to be continuing in this discussion. So word magic, manipulation, I guess a morphization of language, it gives the appearance of being applicable. Maritime admiralty laws govern ships, docking in foreign ports, dealing with import and export, products and resources, banking and merchants affairs, not civil. And I believe I've taken these notes from Dave. I don't even know what that means. When entering a foreign port, that country takes custody and accounts for it with a certificate, a paper establishing an ownership claim, or birth certificates are traded as collateral for securities on loans. We declared bankruptcy March 9th, 1933, and we see warehouse receipts versus birth certificate in contrast. For sidebar note there, further study. So, capitis can I say it? Diminutio, okay, capitis diminutio maxima, all caps name, found on the birth certificate and so forth. Law society creates a language similar to the original as what I'm going to say, hashtag that, trick fuckery. And so I move to the next point. You know what? This has to have work yet, but I'm going to go ahead and read it before I move. Like a big lighter, the way people suffer to supply the fix in reward of the 40-hour week. The fix, the heron, right? Pleasures provided in planned obsolescence, designed for dependency. It's all just in time. Live now, pay later. Socially engineered to consume. Generational years, public relations, or plain propaganda. Wally World Wanderers, predisposed for disposable. Third world workers on $1 a day. Cheap wonders are passions in play. I still going to work on that. So, but anyways, human ownership, man, human, animal, or monster. Consumption and the need for resources, and that by causing others to be your source, since human resources. In order to control masses, it requires owning the mind of the slave, not just the body. In doing so, it is necessary to cause the belief of being free. It is necessary to cause the belief of being free. This is done today with the idea that by free range, the beast doesn't realize their cage. An illusion of choice is the forefront of indoctrination. Do we really have a choice, and the choice is given to us?
No.
Satisfaction with what one has is the key. There's our keys. That locks the shackles. It does. Satisfaction. Are you satisfied? I can't get no. Even when it becomes known, the fruit of your labor is being stolen, it still beats nothing at all. Besides, all you have to do is work a little harder, right? That'll add to your cornucopia of consumption.
Yeah, add to your stress. You get to wake up tired that way.
Welcome to the
we should talk about the subject matter.
Yeah, no whips needed. Yeah.
Hey, you guys, would you guys agree? I'm just going to throw out a number of 70%, but this is what I've always had, imprinted in my brain, was that of all the budgets that go on, law enforcement and justice gets 70% of the budget, and this is what we get in return. Do you guys agree with that stat?
I would say it's got to be close.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
I would say that it sounds like a load of shit and computer juggling to me, because there's no money. The money's bullshit. They make it up. So nothing is as.
There's just zeros in an account somewhere that they just keep adding zeros.
So but I was speaking up my turn, and I was saying that to me it's just a shared illusion amongst you guys, because to me it's laughable. I think it's a fucking joke.
I agree.
10-4 on that one, Taco. That's why they're called liars.
But more people believe it than don't. So I'm in the fringe minority of wackadoodles that doesn't want to play this corporate game, whatever you guys call it. Society, it sucks.
Monopoly.
Don't listen to him. Consume.
Yeah, that's right. That way my people can make more profit off you.
They use the court system, they extort people, and then they expect people to work themselves out of the hole, and then they get more tax revenue of that 70% budget while they're making slaves out of people with traffic stops and divorces and stealing their assets with home foreclosures and bankruptcies. Yeah. And they're stealing land. They're stealing inheritances. They're stealing complete farms.
Yeah. And they get away with it, and they're supported because they're the federal government of America. You guys are all scammed. It's a scam, and it's a collective thing.
A Ponzi scheme.
If we wanted but whatever you want to call it's not my point. Is if we all changed the direction at the same time, it would be different. But there's not enough people that understand that's how you do it. They want to splinter us up in little groups. You got every fucking group in the planet has got representation, so we can't be one voice and say, fuck it, we don't want to do this anymore. That's it.
Yeah, it's always been a numbers game.
Well,
you have to have the people's support behind you, or it's harder to do. That's true.
Right, but people are represented in government, and they're going along with shit. They don't even know they're going along with it. And then they're convinced by the news media that the results of their decisions that they never even made are good. And it's a big fucking game. There's no reality to it. If you could stop people from being violent as a result of the word, then this thing would work a lot better. And the people in charge of it, or running it, or whatever you call whatever these idiots do, my peers are so easily led, it's embarrassing. You can get an argument going about the fucking shape of the planet. And how lame do you have to be? Right, but how lame do you have to be? Right, but how lame do you have to be to believe that knowing the answer to this one question puts you in a superior group of minded people? What in the end of the day, what difference does it make what we're standing on? If it's spinning, if it's flat, if it's square, it doesn't mean anything. But it puts us in a group of people where we're powerful because a lot of us think that way. And it's just part of the illusion.
I think that's part of the whole education system, and you're supposed to obey. When a judge walks in, you're supposed to rise. When he sits down, you're supposed to sit. These people don't have the authority, and everybody thinks you're just supposed to go along with what the judge says, or else they're going to cast living hell upon you, and they do.
Yeah,
but
I
think it's an illusion, and I don't know if you guys would agree that the court system in America is ran by the USPS. I posted a link of 9 hours from a supposed constitutional judge that it's a goofy as hell video that I posted yesterday. But in that 9 hours, there was some interesting tidbits, and they were talking about how, the court system is basically like in a port. They're a foreign trespasser, basically, and we're coming in on our ship into the port. And that's kind of where it starts arriving into maritime law, and everything's all symbolic in there, but people are giving up their freedom via trickery. And I think that's what's happening on a local level. Hal Anthony calls them international bar trespassers, and I think they're using this system against people, and that's how they're making legal decisions, all while they're trying to tell people they're supposed to obey these people.
Yeah.
And the emperor wears no clothes. That's what I always say. The emperor wears no clothes. And when you speak the truth, remember when you're mowing the lawn, it's the very tall dandelion that gets its head cut off. The ones grow short to the ground and bloom, you rarely can cut them off. So think of yourself when you're the only one standing there. Is my neck on the chopping block or not?
How do you define that? What does my neck on the chopping block mean? I don't understand that.
What I mean is this is from the crowd mentality. I don't want to stick my head up because I might get a
okay. I understand you now. Sorry, I just wasn't following it. My mind went somewhere else. Okay.
Hey, Flash, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Oops. Ask Cirque to shoot me a link over there to her Just Words. I'm having a hard time retrieving it for some reason. And also for the shout-out for James over there, Mind Guru.
When she gets back.
Mind Waves. She's gone?
Yeah, she'll be back in a bit.
Oh, okay, good. Listen, let me jump out here for a second. I got a dog barking.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys pass the mic back and forth. I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Usually it's Hannibal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so who wants to talk about what? Go.
Well, I could talk about how I had my neck out, and not in one case, but not 2 cases, and how I got put in jail for just living on my claim, and they were claiming soil disturbance because I walked on it.
Right.
When their own rules say that's bull. But anyways, this is where I got onto the trustee, not being one, even though there hasn't been one since 1946 when they created the BLM. But this also goes to the heart of the grazing land, because they created the BLM to manage all the grazing lands and all the mineral estates. Each one was supposed to have their own trustee, a local trustee. That like, if a rancher was having a problem with, neighbors' cows coming in on his grazing rights, they could go take care of it. And the money the ranchers would have paid, it was in lieu of taxes, and it wasn't to go to the BLM. That was a pass-through to the county in lieu of taxes to the county, because as a legal construct, the rancher doesn't own the grazing rights. His ranch does. So if he sold his ranch, the grazing rights go with the ranch. And they're not to be separated. a lot of people have made the mistake of separating them from their ranches, and they put them into administrative limbo because it's the ranch. The ranch is a person. Remember that. As a business construct.
Yeah.
You know what I think's going on? I mean, it definitely ties to the mining claims and the ranchers' claims in sovereign land. But you start taking a look at second and third world nations, and you look what happened in the 80s with, I don't care if it was South America or Africa, World Bank or the IMF, they would go around the world loaning out all this money in the name of development, and, you know, in reality they're just funding, the corrupt regime that was down there.
The IMF is really the Fed.
Well,
it's really the Fed.
Yeah, they go around getting everybody so far into debt that, then they crash the economies, and then they jack up the interest rates, and they go into default, sends the people right back into poverty. Well, I think America is now the largest debtor nation, and I think what's going on is
China
don't have the guts.
China is.
Okay,
China's going to. They're setting China up for a collapse, and because $750 hypothetical dollars left last year, and they owe so much real estate debt that they'll be 500-600 years before they crawl out of it.
Yeah, these are bubbles just going to be popping. I don't know what to believe out of China, to be honest with you, but here in the United States, well, we're so far into debt that I think that what they're doing is, like, if we want to continue the debt spiral, we have to get a loan because we're in default. That's why we're in maritime law. And
there's nobody loaning any money to the United States. It's all coming from the Fed. Since 2007, the Fed has been financing the government through their banking cartel to every time the government needs money, they go to the Fed. And the Fed then turns around and orders it either zeros or printing money. Mostly they're not printing it anymore. They're just creating zeros in the ledger, and then they loan it to a bank that then turns around and buys a treasury bond. And so, so what you got right here is Rand Paul and Ron Paul's idea of auditing the Fed is a very good one, because it would make the House of Cards collapse.
Okay, Dave. Hey, let's hand the mic to Brent here for a little bit, and I want him to expound on that, and then take us into the comparison of the assault on these other nations, and how we're right there on that same doorstep. So let me hand this mic over to Brent here.
Well, I agree. China's not buying our debt. All the foreign people, the U.S. dollar is worthless. Nobody wants to get left holding the bag. So the Federal Reserve is absolutely doing that, and anybody wants safe haven buying with gold and silver, I can tell you they crashed some of my positions. I mean, I was able to buy in, down around $9, $10.56, $14, and look what they've done. I mean, I've bought a lot higher than that. They've absolutely crashed the gold and silver to keep people from finding some safe haven buying. But
that's right.
That's exactly what they're doing. They don't really want people to get too far ahead. They want to manipulate everything. And I think what they're doing is we're so far into debt. They've made backdoor deals. Like you look at the NDAA, they wrote in to give Apache land, sovereign nation. If everybody agrees, the nation of the Apache and all the indigenous people, they are sovereign. Yet, who gives people the right to give mining rights from Apache land through NDAA? That's why I think they don't have... They
don't have the authority to do that. They don't have that authority at all. That belongs to the Indians, the Apaches. And I would defend them if I could help them. I'd do it, because, see, they have as much right to their land as I do to my claim. Their claim is probably stronger, except the Indians around here were all massacred. So there isn't any left here except for tribes that don't have any claims on, around here. They killed them off a long time ago. They're called the Wilkes Valley tribes. But they slaughtered them all. The Army did.
I agree with that, and I understand why the natives don't trust the white man and the federal government. Who would? It's sad to state that. No, I don't either, but I don't see them. They're not lining up behind the ranchers down there in Burns or Nevada, and I understand that. I can't speak for them or in general terms, but I think they're assimilating our entire society. And they're stealing our land. And one of the things, I'll just make a quick point, was, when I watched what was going on down there at the Bundy down in Nevada, I watched that like the first day that it happened, and I was tuning into like the live streams where I saw him body slam a 56 or 57-year-old woman onto the ground.
Right.
I saw him taser.
Right, I've seen that video.
They don't put that on the mainstream media. And these people are coming in and stealing people's land. And then you listen to Harry Reid calling these people domestic terrorists, and they need to go out and do something. These are a bunch of jackbooted thugs, and they're trying to turn around and call the ranchers domestic terrorists. Well, I think the tables need to be turned. What about that governor down there in Oregon that called in the FBI that got a man shot in the head 9 times?
Well, she should be investigated for her corruption. By the way, she's only governor because the previous governor resigned under corruption charges.
Well, look at the U.S. attorney. She had to resign because she's a whore. She was out there having an affair with her subordinate lawyer, and she had to resign.
That's right. That's right.
They need to get. If they're going to call people domestic terrorists, it's time to turn things around and call these guys liberal governors, whores, U.S.
By the way, that's Emmanuel Marshall, the lady you're talking about, is the one that prosecuted me in the case down here through her U.S. assistant attorney. And as far as I can find out from all the federal agencies, the idea of giving me 30 days in jail was her idea.
Well, she's a whore.
Right. Right.
These aren't domestic terrorists. These are people. They're trying to make these people.
I would call her a harlot, but that's my term of what I would use.
These guys are cowboys, and they're trying to make these people at the mainstream media and the liberal left just wants people to parrot, and they're trying to call them militants. Everything starts off with a militant or militia. At what point are people just saying sick and tired of it and they're standing up against these whores, the liberal press? It should be localized. It shouldn't be so central, but obviously we have a dumbed-down group of people that are allowing it to happen. They think it's neat. They want more social services, and they're ushering in totalitarianism and absolute it's sad to see.
Anarchy by government. Anarchy by government. The government's causing the anarchy because they're not following the Constitution. They're not following the rule of natural law. And so we're having a breakdown in society, and it's being caused by government.
Well, what's interesting
is the problem.
I agree. It's never the solution, but what's going on? They have so much money. I mean, we do have a monetary system, despite them printing money off the printing press. But when they, control the U.S. dollar, that is a hard currency, and you can, buy it as legal tender. They're buying up a lot of salaries at $116,000 a year, plus pension, plus overtime, and all these people are just itching with all that strength down there. They are monitoring everything. They are. This is more like an operation where they're infiltrating that group. They're doing it with all of the live streams, all the alternative media. I guarantee you they're keeping an eye on the pulse of what's going on because people are standing up, and they don't want it. They want to go along with the plan of stealing people's land, future generations' property rights, and look what they're doing down there in Burns. I guarantee you they're infiltrating these groups and pretending to be part of this.
That's a really good point, and I want to come back to that. But before we move on to that, because I spoke to you, and I think I got this from you earlier. Neil Corns, Principal Deputy Director, Bureau of Land Management, Since March 1st, 2013, Neil has been leading the Bureau of Land Management as the agency's principal deputy director. He oversees the agency's management of more than 245 million acres of public land nationwide. Prior to serving in his current role, he was the Bureau of Land Management's acting deputy director for policy and programs starting in October 2011. He joined the organization in January 2011 as senior advisor to the director. In these roles, he worked on a broad range of issues, including renewable and conventional energy development, transmission, siting, and conservation policy. He was a key player in the development of Western Solar Plan. That's the someone coming here, and the agency's successful authorization of more than 10,000 megawatts of renewable energy, surpassing a congressionally established goal 3 years ahead of schedule. He has also been active in tribal consultation, especially as it relates to oil and gas and renewable energy developments. Before coming to the Bureau of Land Management, he worked as a senior advisor to U.S. Senate Majority Harry Reid of Nevada. In his work for Senator Reid, which spanned from early 2003 to 2011, he worked on a variety of public land issues, including renewable energy development, mining, water, outdoor recreation, rural development, and wildlife. He also served as an international election observer in Macedonia, the Ukraine, and Georgia, and is co-author of the article in the Oxford Companion to American Law. Raised in Elko, Nevada, he is a Phi Beta Kappa graduate with a degree in politics from Whitman College in Walla Walla. I always think of, in Bugs Bunny's voice, Walla Walla, Washington. He earned Rancho Cucamonga, Pomona. He earned a master's degree in international relations at the London School of Economics. Okay, so this is just one of these players. I've got to be able to get this all, and other people have done it, but they're all tied together. Like you were saying, Brent, who's screwing who, right?
Yeah. These people are sneaky. I mean, you'd have to be blind or stupid to not think that that's exactly what they're going to do. They got that kind of force.
Yeah, tie in again one more time all these people that you can recall, if I can put you on the spot, that are all involved there in this little scheme of things.
Well, I don't want to call anybody out when I wasn't there or anything. It just seems to me, awfully suspicious when I watch. What kind of person's going to go set up something with all the evidence? I mean, even though I'm rambling on right now, I'm not doing anything illegal. But if you want to think about it, like what the Pete Santelli guy was just constantly nonstop showing everything. But when you get an alternative media, it just almost seems like what's the value of that? I mean, yeah, you can show the good side, and that's what alternative media can do. But at what point are these government operatives? And I'm not going to say that he is, because I don't know that he is. I question everything, and I don't trust anybody. But when I see somebody out there almost inflaming the situation, and what they get is the faces of the people. They get their information. When the people come to town, they get the driver's license. It just seems to me like I question if the guy, he might have been arrested, but at what point are they going to extract him from the situation and find him not guilty because they needed somebody like that? I'm not saying that that's the case because I don't know. But it just seems to me that they're going to have people dressing up as cowboys showing up down there pretending to be, but it just seems like it's controlled opposition. And, when I listen to things, because I heard a lot of the information from what you were talking about, been paying attention, trying to watch the drone coverage, and they say, I'm an open and transparent guy. I am. But they say, we're going to put that out the next day with the drone. But they didn't show everything. It was like CNN reporting. So they're claiming to be the FBI. They're trying to show everything, but they didn't show them when they were behind the car opening fire. I didn't see that anyways. I saw the RoboCops at the first stop. They showed the guy stopping out in front, and then they showed him punching it. You know, but they didn't show everything. They didn't show what happened after the guy got shot. They didn't show the evidence. I did listen to like 18-year-old girls in the car and said that there was 120 shots. I didn't see that. I heard on the news or somebody said it was 3 shots. So I don't know why they would have an 18-year-old girl in the car. I don't know who was in with their caravan. I don't know if it was in car 1 or car 2. I don't know who, why Santilli was in the car.
He wasn't in the car. He wasn't in the car. For clarity, to my best discernment, this is the sequence of events. Ammon, along with several others, and Lavoie in a separate car, left the refuge for a meeting in the next county over. It was known that they were going there, of course, to know what time it is and what route you'd have to take. And it ain't like there's a lot of options when you're going across some open country like it is out there. So they set up a choke point, and I say they, the feds and state authority set up a roadblock in a place where there's no cell phone service to cut off any communication that they might be able to get back out, while they're under siege, as it turns out. Ryan Payne sticks his hand and head out the glass, out the side window. He was a driver. It took fire. They hit the mirror there on the driver's side. He jumps out and is postulated, and I agree, he did so to draw fire away from the occupants of the car. At about that time, seeing what's in store there, I believe that would be the time that Lavoie then took off, possibly about a mile down the road into a blind curve. There was another roadblock at a choke point. In the road conditions, I believe that Lavoie, knowing that he could not stop and he was going to hit the blockade of cars, I think he took to the left shoulder of the road, impacting the snow. As he was going off, obviously I would say his forward motion had been slowed sufficiently enough to near stop that, and it turns out when you see where he did stop that it was. So, and then that cop jumps out in front of him, breaking cover, and trying to be able to draw or make that rules of engagement to deadly fire because he was struck with a vehicle. Well, again, in another heroic move, Lavoie gets out of the car and walks well away from the car to not have any fire drawn upon the car to save those occupants inside. Hand high in the air, we see his right hand go to his left side. First, I believe he had opened his jacket, and when prompted, "You have any weapons?" "No, show me." Which, this is these cops. You're getting all these different orders from cops. I don't know if anybody's been stopped by a cop. Now, where I live at, it's pretty good folks out here in the, of course, they're part of this system that, and they don't realize, of course, that I spend a lot of time in engagement, personally speaking, with the sheriff and the deputies, and I like to point out some things to them. So, and I get a lot of agreement. So, if I'm not changing anything directly, I am having at least some influence on thinking for further down the line. But that's a whole different topic. But, they're not going to be enforcing some gun grab or something like that. But, when something like that happens, let's see what really does happen. But anyways, cops in some places, of course, when you get into the socially engineered inner city where there's prone to more violence. They're more militant in their stops. So, and they do, give you contradictory commands. A person is easily confused. So Anyway, so back to Lavoie opening his jacket. I don't have any weapons. See, I think at that time that one cop, he comes out from behind, which if you're looking directly at the video, it would be to the right. The first left car there comes out, bam, he shoots him in the side, tickled his ribs, if you would. He reaches in, he's like feeling like something that bit him or something, reaches in, and he's like, he shot me, and he points the guy out, he shot me. And the other guy to the left of the first shooter shoots him again into the right side. He turns around, and this other guy's coming up on him, and contrary to any type of engagement, he fires, putting the other Leos were there in the background of his shooting, put them in line of friendly fire. He walks up and shoots this man, executes him, shoots him in the face, kills him. So they also fired upon the car. They also used flashbangs, grenades, and tear gas. So
yeah, it looked like it was open fire. They let them in like elk in a valley. And it looked to me like they murdered him, and then they had to put some out in day 2 to spin things through CNN. But they didn't show everything. I mean, if they're going to show an excerpt, they need to show the whole thing as evidence, because you know how things can get spun, and that's exactly what I think has happened here.
Yeah, and you know what? Where did I have this written down at, if I can recall it? I'll just try to pull it off the top of my head. But and as I think I showed quite well when I had P.M. Beers and Thomas Robert Lockevar Stewart on a left-right perspective in how they said, and it comes, they said in agreement how, the wrong and the right. But so often this left is like, gun them down. But Brandon Tuberville wrote an article. I'm going to grab it. This is a little, is there a better way? Hal's been saying the same thing. Is there a better way? Well, do we got to condemn them for the stand that they took? Sure, there's always a better way. But the fact remains is they were not armed occupiers, militia, and I've made the same mistake in my vocabulary of using terms that should not be used in application. But did they take a better stand? And sure, there's a better way, right? But they were not occupying. It was no more than a set-in. They were nonviolent, and they were set up to be ambushed and one man murdered because the federal authority. Not why? Not because they can, and that's why. That
governor down there in Oregon, I hope she's proud, because she called that in, but that was probably a stunt too, because I guarantee the federal government was going to do it anyways. They have to demonize these people, and they want people to believe it. These are people that are just taking a stand for their local areas and future generations, and for somehow they want to demonize that.
That was, I dropped that link into chat right there. That's from Brandon Tuberville. By the way, he broadcasts UCY.TV Monday nights and replays on Friday. He has a very good perspective. He brings a lot of good points to bear in that article of what is the best method of rebellion against tyranny. Activistpost.com.
I think one of the things that we have is the ability to do alternative media. I mean, I heard you listen. I listened in one of your shows, Vince, and you were just somebody said you said something about patriotism, but there should be no pay in it. Well, if you don't take any pay for doing something, eventually people get starved out unless you got another job doing something else. But you take a look at how the media is. These guys are making a lot of money. They got their corporate sponsors. They protect them. Democracy Now! Is supposed to be like unbiased, but it's just a global agenda. They take $1.5 million from George Soros, and I'm supposed to believe that They're not biased. They're not going to say anything bad. They're not going to say anything bad against George Soros as a result of that. It's just like, at what point should alternative media get paid? At what point did people cut off Comcast and the whole system and start changing things around? I think that if you're doing a good job and you got this much time built into your shows, Vince, you should get paid. If you're a man of integrity, you're not going to have a conflict of interest. But I think you should get paid for your hard work. Your network should get paid.
I agree.
Because these are, the guy talking right there, you should get paid. I should get paid. Sean Hannity, Megyn Kelly, Rachel Maddow, they should be cut off. We should be cutting into their revenue stream, and they need to shut up.
There you go. Personally, for me, I do what I do. Well, I don't do anything for federal notes anyways, but I get a great satisfaction out of bringing to bear topics I think that we need to talk about. Davis.
Yeah, I was say, Vince, why wouldn't you accept? If you don't accept the federal debt note, why would you not accept Bitcoin or start getting micro payments or micro donations to you? Because if you got 100 people willing to pay you Bitcoin, but you won't take U.S. dollar, why would you not want to enter into that system if it cuts into the revenue stream and we're centralizing things?
I don't have any desire to enter into any type of commerce. Period. I don't use commerce, but I do encourage people to support the networks. RealLibertyMedia.com, WorldTruth.org, UCY.tv. These people, Grammy Grimner and Jules, are putting in tireless work to provide a venue for people like me to speak, and you know what, and not charging me. So I myself would not take any kind of money for what I'm doing. I would say redirect that to them, back to the source. And I would, gladly be proud to pass you along that information of how to do so.
But if
you can have my share
too.
too.
You got good enough content. Why would you not be willing to do that? You might need to buy a new new headset. I just think that there's something to be said about that. You should get paid what you're worth rather than the spin lies that are going on in mainstream media.
Sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against anybody that wants to be paid for their work. That's the way it should be. But I'm not against somebody that wants to give a wino a cold beer on a hot day. I mean, it's freedom of interaction, right? Voluntary interaction. Let me open this up. I'm gonna pop this to Grimner on the air. I haven't got back to Chuck on this.
We got to be able to deny. What's your name again? That was talking about
that's
paid,
it. Let me. Hold on.
Yeah, let me ask him a question.
Let me. Go ahead, and then I'll come back with the information I was about to share.
All right. So your idea about getting paid is a good one, and denying your competition through your good work, not by, a public-private partnership that most of everything is involved in. If you look at Bill Gates, for instance, he gets paid, and he gets paid from this foundation that he created as a nonprofit, and he can spend the money any way he likes, like the Clintons do, and so it allows them to create this revenue stream and not pay any taxes, or pay very little taxes compared to Joe Blow that makes $26,000 and works down here, in some dealership working as a mechanic, or some guy that's making less, like pumping gas. So those guys are the ones that are paying the taxes. Bill Gates doesn't pay any taxes. His corporations do, but he don't, because he set it up in a trust so he doesn't have to pay anything. See, and he gets everything he wants because the banks will give you, like you can open an account, say in Australia, in the American Virgin Islands in a brokerage account, You can set up a banking card where they give you a card. You can spend that anywhere in the world, electronically or otherwise. And so what I want to know is what does Bill Gates walk around in his pocket to pay his to buy whatever he needs to buy whenever he needs to buy it? Because that would be the interesting thing. Is he using his foundation to buy his lunch? Because at some point you become so wealthy, you get bored, and so you got to avoid the temptation of mammon. To see, money is a two-edged sword. It can do good things, but it can do god-awful things if it's spent with evil intent. It's how you spend your money, not what you spend it on. It's who you spend it with, not and what choices you have where to spend it. We don't give you very many choices, really, on how to spend your money. And they give you, except consumerly, and like the banks of Europe, they don't even want you to leave it in the bank and not spend it. So you're going to have to pay to keep your money in the bank coming to America soon. Where you're going to have money in the bank, and they're going to say, we're no longer paying interest rates, but now you have to pay us 5% to hold your money. Wait till you see that.
Oh, that'll happen for sure. 501-762-0437 to call in. If you'd like to add in your commentary, you're welcome to be added in. And so for Grimner, I'll just pop this on out. This is my good friend Chuck O'Celli. He's produced my program previously on UCY.tv of What Matters Worldwide. The O'Celli Effect, O'Celli.com. And he's at American Freedom Radio. And I'll talk to Grim. I popped it in chat and popping it on air live right here. So please let me know if RealLibertyMedia.com or whoever would like the show so I can put them in the loop for MP3 distribution. And those that want to stream live, so I can get them the right info and list them as affiliate on O'Celli.com, AFR, and a few other places. Yeah, Chuck's a great guy. If you don't know Chuck O'Celli, I suggest you look him up at O'Celli.com. And now,
they should listen to him.
Yeah, Flash, you ain't said nothing. What are you doing over? Did you tie your dog up?
No, I was sitting here thinking about the three of you have identified tyranny and what it looks like to me, right? And I was marveling.
Yes.
I was marveling at how fortunate I am to live in a country that's so small and there's so few people here, and that leads me to small community. It works well, and if you're civilized to people, even if you don't speak their language, that's all it takes to survive. You don't need to contribute anything more than have a nice day. I'm not slapping people around out there because somebody shot somebody in Oregon. Well, that's the choice those people made.
Yeah, but what do you get when you get outside agencies that come in against you in your little community? How do you defend? Would you call your neighboring community to come to aid?
Well, I understand your point, and where me and Cirque live, it's a little town of about 12,000. The total population around us is 12,000, and
that's bigger than where I live.
Right, but
that's pretty big compared to where I live.
The closest police presence is 20 kilometers. About 20 kilometers.
How many is it? How many is that in miles?
About 30. Whatever. I think it's a mile and a half to a kilometer or something like that.
80 kilometers is 50 miles.
Oh. Okay.
So that's about how far the law enforcement is for me, and you have to make an appointment, and you have to go into town to talk to them.
Wow.
See, that's perfect. You should be in paradise there.
Well, no, because then the Forest Service comes out almost every day and harasses you. So they pretend to be real law enforcement, but they're not. So I don't have law enforcement. I have tyranny because I was being harassed by the Forest Service. Right. And when I went to the sheriff, I could get no help.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. My home, where I came from, has completely changed. The stories you hear today you would have never heard when I was a child growing up in L.A. These things were not heard of. People didn't talk this way. And now it's common. And I'm living abroad. I'm 6,000 miles from home, where I was born. But now I live over here. And seeing the world from a quiet, small town in a place where there's no problems.
Bruce Jenner's living abroad, isn't he? I mean, as abroad.
Well, I don't know.
Hey, listen,
is he?
I'm going to be crude. Crude alert. Mute your speaker if you're offended. There's no such thing as chicks with dicks. There's only dudes with tits.
GP's standing up.
Unmute.
You know, I live, I don't know, there's 500,000 people around where I'm at, and Seattle is another, you know, it's pretty much all one big Seattle, but so there's about 500,000 people around where I'm at.
Right.
We have, I call it about a beehive about a mile away. We have the county sheriff's main office there. We have the city's police officers there, and we got a highway that's a stone throw away from here, so you get the Washington State Patrol going through everywhere. And, you know, from going back to 2008, 2009, seeing a constant social decline. You know, the housing market, it caused a lot of, they've wiped out the local economy. We might have Boeing. You might be doing okay if you're a cop. You might be doing okay if you're a teacher. You might be doing okay if you work at Boeing. But there's a lot. I'm out of work right now. I've been out of work for about a month now. There's just not a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of foreclosures that are out there that they're not releasing, and we were talking about that yesterday, but you're seeing drugs being sold out of these foreclosed houses, rats, because there's nowhere to throw the garbage. They're throwing it out in the backyard. Huge mounds of garbage, these drug houses. And there's crime is on the rise, and this was all predictable. So there's just so many cops that are around here. We got heroin. We got gangs. We got social decline going on right here. And I'm listening to, the smaller towns where there wasn't a lot of, economic opportunity, but they're also not running into, huge swaths of crime that comes with this urban agenda. I don't think they have to deal with the police, but when you got so many people around and they're taking 70% of the budget and they're paying people $85,000 at a 5-year mark for being in law enforcement, you could be 23 years old and make $85,000 a year under a contract, and they're just chasing people around. It's turning into a police state. It's like people need to go local and get out of these towns. I'm trapped. There's somebody in a community of 12,000 over in Europe, and they don't have.
I invite you to come to my claim. If you feel trapped, I invite you to come to my claim.
I'm gold miner. I got gold pans. I got a wheel. I got it all. I might have to venture off down there.
Well, that's Miner Dave.
I'm a rock hound.
Yeah, I am too, by the way. Galease Mining District, Miner Dave Everest. And so where are we at in this world? Is it fate or has it been perpetrated? Perpetrate.
Wow.
Fate or perpetrate. The word Kismet is of foreign origin is used in Turkish, Urdu, Hindu, and Arabic. In Hindu, it would be pronounced more like Kismet, and it means fate or destiny. The meaning is exactly the same in the meaning is exactly the same in English. So instead of saying it's fate, you could say Kismet. Kismet, on the sidebar, is also the name of a robot at MIT Research Lab that is used to demonstrate simulated emotion. However, there is no connection between the meaning of, I don't know if there is or there ain't. The word Kismet was used on season 5, episode 25 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and that was your side bit of Kismet, because I wonder, I titled this Kings, Keys, and Kismet of the Knowns. So, is it fate? Is there nothing that we can do? Is it our destiny? Are we locked in, or can we make a change? So, I think that we can make a change, and I am armed. I am armed with my arms and my voice, and I think we all need to take a stand and fight where we can. It's time to stand up, you know. We can't lay down like dogs, you know, and be kicked. Who's kicking the dog, you know? Jackbooted thugs. How do you like it now?
I like where I'm at.
Well, just remember, ever is forever lasting and evermore. And there's another term that's a Latin term called evero. And evero means the bringer of rights. And so I have to say, as an Everest, as a keeper of the Republic, I'll pursue that destiny, the bringer of rights. Evero.
That's pretty awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, look it up. It's in a dictionary, English into Latin, back into English, and evero is the bringer of rights, or the provider of rights, which is the same thing. So, as my destiny is so is yours. If you want to make a stand and be a free people and not be tied to a monarchy, an oligarchy, or a dictatorship, or a tyrannical government, you need to speak up now or forever hold your peace.
You're here. Yeah, you see, Rand Paul just dropped out. I'm not saying I was going to give him my vote because he was going to have to earn it. He rubs elbows along with the Republicans a bit much more than I can tolerate. But that might have been by strategy. But he may have gotten my vote. I'm not going to say I wasn't going to vote for him. But now that he's out, now we got this duel between Queen Hillary and Mr. Big Government Bernie Sanders. I can't see how I can get behind any candidate right now. 4 more
Just
years.
your local ones. Just your local ones. There's no reason. Just your local elections. You should concentrate on who you want in office where you live,
right,
and then make them stand up and represent you against the federal government. That's the only place you got to go right now.
Exactly, Dave. And that's what I was trying to say.
Get to know your county sheriff.
Yeah. Well, whoa. I wasn't saying all that, but I agree with it. If you're comfortable in your community, then you're not part of the problem. You're one of the few people that get what you're doing is okay, or if it's going to bring you more shit.
I'm going to post something in the chat that shows how corrupt where I live is from the county level. I'll do that in a moment, but there is so much corruption right here where I live that I don't see it getting any better. And a lot of people say, well, it doesn't affect me. How can you get so upset about it? It's like, who can tolerate this kind of corruption when they turn a blind eye to crimes that are going on? That's how corrupt Washington
State is. That's what corruption leads to.
So I'm going to post something in there that shows how it ties to the Bar Association and how there's people that are taking a stand and Public Records Act, and it's under attack right now. They're trying to water it down. They're trying to take away some of the powers that we do have to make the changes. But I've gone down there to the county meeting. I've told them how corrupt and how the lawsuits are going to be coming, but they don't seem to care about that. The lawyers still win money when there's lawsuits going on. And I'll post
right unless you can show the attorneys creating a breach of his fiduciary duty, and then you can impose a constructive trust, and you can he'll be removed as a court officer and stripped of all his assets under a breach of trust. And that it's easy to pick off a single attorney and get them. Usually, what they do is they resign the bar with 3 steps before, and then the bar quits investigating them. So if you Google this, how many disbarred lawyers per year state? How many of them were disbarred and how many resign? Just head of the ethics commission, because if they resign, they decide just to resign from the office of the bar association, and any association with them. You don't get disbarred. Whatever they've done, they can hide, and unless you can actually prevent them from resigning. If you can do that, then they have to conduct a full investigation, and then they're disbarred and stripped of all their assets. So
they're fixing things pretty darn good.
Private lawyers.
Oh, they're fixing things. I agree with what you're saying. You got to do what you can do with the system that you have, or else they'll keep doing what they're doing. But obviously, there's major mafiosa going on. We're talking about loan sharking 101. Well, the mafia is still alive. It's just they're doing it through the government now.
They're just what the deal is they say this guy's a mafioso guy, that guy's a mafioso guy. But that guy doesn't kill innocent people. The only people that maybe those guys killed were their opponents of whatever beef they had. But the problem is when they become government, they kill everybody. They're indiscriminate. They're madmen. Where at least a mafioso guy, you might have a conversation and maybe you can straighten things out. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But they didn't kill your neighbor. They didn't kill your dog. They might kill you, but now what is it? They shoot your dog. They shoot your dog. They shoot you, and then they go out and they hunt down your doctor and they shoot him. I mean, I'm using that as a plurality, but that's what they're doing. Is they go out around to all your associates and they start attacking them if they can't come at you. See, when you force them, when you got them tied up where they can't come to you, they go to your friends and they start working on them, and then they start torturing them. And so I have a long memory. I will never forget the evil done by the Forest Service and their oligarchy, their fiefdom. See, this is the problem, is most people have short memories. They hear something, they hear it once, maybe they hear it twice, and then a week from now they can't remember it. And so what we have to do is we have to improve our neighbors and our friends' collective memory. Because, the Earth has been around a lot longer than what we know or what we think we know. But as Rumsfeld said, there's things we know and there's things we don't know. And so we know that we think, because we have records for 6,000 years, the Earth has been around 6,000 years. But
there's people saying the world is flat. just for a very idiotic interruption. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and the sun circles the flat Earth society, right?
Well, I don't know if it's flat. Right? I mean,
where I'm at?
That's
where I'm at, the land I'm looking at isn't flat.
I'm using this because I say, what are facts for evidence? And when are you happy? When are you happy with the answer you get? Is it your proof of truth? Yeah. Well, we are in a debt trap, and that is for certain. And we have been presenting evidence, facts for evidence as to the case of how we are contained. We're rolling out here. We're coming up pretty close, about another less than 15 minutes. And so what I'd like to do is give everybody about less than 5 minutes to give a recap and statement.
All right, who goes first?
All right, Dave, you go first. And Dave, you go ahead and go first, and then I'll interrupt you when it's time for the next guy.
Yeah, but that's usually the way it goes. So what we're talking about here is, for next week's show, will be lawful versus legal, and legal not necessarily being lawful, but being a construct of a tyrant or a judge or whoever is in power to insert the way they want to do it. If you look at most prosecutions by your district attorney or the U.S. Attorney's Office, is 96% conviction rate. Well, the reason why they have that rate is 85% of the cases are resolved by plea bargaining. So you got the rest of the cases, and then out of 4% of whatever percentage of the cases left are found not guilty if they get a jury. But out of those cases, maybe 1% can't get a jury. Most pleas were tried in administrative court on a matter of law or regulation or rule. And they look at the law, they ignore the law, and they accept the rule, when they should be ignoring the rule and accepting the law. And so this is where you have rights that are unalienable. And when you say inalienable, well, what does that really mean? Well, it means God-given or natural law. But what you need to do is say unalienable, as Jefferson said. It was atoms that made it inalienable. This is the discussion we've had for 200 plus years. Is it unalienable or is it inalienable? I'm the type that takes it unalienable, meaning no one has the power to touch them. That means I can't put a lien on it like I can put on your dog, your horse, your ox, your plow. They meant certain things were never supposed to be lienable unless you mortgaged them. And you can't mortgage natural law or natural life. You can mortgage property, but you can't mortgage a right. And I don't have the right to give up a right to my descendants. I don't have a right, you don't have a right to give up my rights because you're not my agent. And you're supposed to be bound by an oath of office to follow the Constitution. Not some statute you want to write that gives you the right to lien me as property. And this is what they're doing, is they're liening everybody in the United States and worldwide is to collect this property. And so when that state cop or those state cops that shot LaVoy, they look at it as they had one piece of property liquidating another piece of property. And if you look at the Hitler regime, when they wanted to get rid of the population base because it was no longer profitable and they didn't want to feed them anymore, they called it in terms of liquidation. We need to liquidate that asset. That's because they were looking at them as property. And so either you know what property is or you probably are property, as Hal Anthony says. Because he says you should know what property is and what it isn't. And people, we the people, are not property. And I refuse to enslave any of my fellow citizens to make them property. But that's not what the oligarchy wants that's in charge. That would be George Soros and Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and all the people that you see that have been extorting the United States and thieving out of our treasury. And it's time for an audit of the Fed because they're unlawful. Not legal. They may be legal, but they're unlawful. And so it's time to audit the Fed and enforce a breach of fiduciary duty and hit them with a constructive trust. That means we get to liquidate them. Because they hold the bonds, all the bonds of the United States is held by all the major banks in their public-private partnership with the Fed. Can eat it. Because that means we own nothing and we can repudiate it as citizens. And it's time for an audit and a repudiation of the debt that they created out of thin air.
I think that's a perfect place to stop that with you, Dave. I appreciate you. We're going to be back on next week. Yeah, I really appreciate you calling in and taking part as my guest, along with Flash and producer Circle and Brent. Brent, let me bring you on here for about 4 or 5 minutes.
I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you go, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Okay, I'll talk to you before then. All right, brother.
Bye.
Okay, thanks, brother.
Call me.
I will. Dave!
Yeah?
Oh, I was calling you. I was calling you.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye. Bye.
Put the beer down and step away from the microphone, you idiot.
Me? I don't have no. I do got a beer. Hey, that's an idea.
Yeah.
It's Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, shit. It's Friday somewhere.
Man, I'll tell you what. We produced some really fine radio flash. You and I, some great guests. We're putting out some pretty good cognitive information here. Brent, let me bring you in here for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then pass the mic to Flash, and then I'll close out the last minute with the show note.
The Dingbat Report.
Take it away.
Okay. No, hey, Vince and Flash, thanks for having me on your show. It's an interesting subject matter, and I think Minor Dave hit on some excellent points today. And I agree with what he just said, but he also talked about the mafiosa and talking about comparison contrast with the government. I'd like to add on that, at least the mafia has a code of ethics. Now, we're seeing it's like the good side versus the dark side. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz and the Munchkins need to come out, or it's like Star Wars, or however you want to look at it. But, we got individual rights, and we have globalism going on. And I'm not saying this from a social justice standpoint, because I think a lot of people have been misguided, and they just want their, a lot of crony capitalism. They want to keep the system alive, and it just keeps it's saddling Americans with debt. When Europe goes bankrupt and they, what happens? The Fed gives them a bunch of money and $500 billion disappears and nobody knows where it goes. They're creating wars. It's causing a lot of immigrants to come over here, go over there, and it's causing a lot of problems. And I think that's the problem with big government. And I think some of the solutions are, just like Minor Dave was just talking about, is we need to end and audit the Fed. But I think before you do that, I put up something on John Quaid earlier. I encourage everybody to go listen to what he had to say. He's a man that has a lot of intelligence. It's unfortunate that he died, but he stood for law reform. So go take a look at that, because I agree. The first thing that we need to do before we end and audit the Fed, we need to fire every single judge, fire every single prosecutor, rid the Bar Association from our shores, and we need to restore a real sense of justice on a local level through jury system. We need something better, and then we can work on ending and auditing the Fed, so they can't come back and say, with the gavel down, this is what we're going to do. That's the problem with people like Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or Marco Rubio or all these other pieces of shit. They just want to bankrupt America. Only thing it does is fund corruption, and the corruption gets worse. They trickle out all that money. Federal money comes out to local law enforcement. They got all the bells and whistles. They got all the armored cars. They got all the guns, and people's dogs are getting shot. They're throwing stun grenades at people's babies. They're stealing people's property, and enough is enough. So I think that we need to work for those solutions, and there's nothing wrong with standing on the right side of things. And I don't even believe in. I used to be a big constitutionalist, but I stand for the Bill of Rights. I stand for human rights. I'm not going along with the social justice stuff or globalism at all. And I like to kind of end, there's people out there that died like Frank Zappa that were conservative. But at least the conservatives stand up for all people's rights, all individual rights. That goes from expression, speech, music, everything. But I don't see that coming from the left. The left just wants to take people's rights away. They're content with people going out and shooting ranchers down in Oregon, and enough is enough.
That's true, and the right is just as guilty. With
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But natural law is where the law is.
That's right. Thanks, Brent. Man, you are very awesome to be able to put ideas together and present them. Stick around. Next week, legal versus law. Minor Dave's going to come back in, and hopefully maybe you can join us again as well. Flash, won't you take us out here? We got about a minute to go, and you can hang up on us when we're done. So, big love.
You're not going to like it. Well, I sit back and I look at life through my version of reality, and then I think I watch this joint hallucination around me. You know, they call it the world, you know, the population. And then I absorb the little tidbits of information I get through this magic box internet crap. And it's supposed to mold and form my thoughts to believe certain things are this and certain things are that. So one day I woke up and said, it's either all true or it's all bullshit. And I've gone with it's all bullshit since I was in my late 20s. And things work out exactly the way I want them to work out. I just have to figure out what it is I'm wanting, and then I go get it and do whatever I do in life. And I think people make more of this than there should be. Bye. Wait, I thought he was going to say something. Whoops.
No, that was it. I rocked it out already.
Yep,
All right.
All right.
Thanks, man. We're